Hey guys, Micah from Black Bear Custom Kydex. I've got a fun video for you today on a very cool knife. This is the first knife I've done from this maker. Check this thing out, guys. It's a beautiful Bowie style knife, gorgeous coffin handle. That's very traditional. I don't know what kind of wood is in this, but obviously it's very pretty. And nice big S guard. Obviously this is Damascus as well, and the steel looks phenomenal on it. I love the patterning on this. And I don't know if it shows up on the camera, but I think it's hard too because the Damascus pattern disrupts the lettering, but there is a stamp right down here. The maker is Mark McCoun. I think I'm pronouncing that correctly. McCoun. Mark McCoun. This was built in 2022, according to the stamp there, and he's located in DeWitt, Virginia. So I'll link anything I can find on him, website, social media, YouTube, something like that. I'll link that in the description box down below. Now, this knife is going to a buddy of mine who's done quite a few projects with me, and I don't know if you noticed the resemblance here between the knife on the shirt and the knife in my hands, but I think there's some obvious inspiration going on there. This is going to a gentleman named Michael. He does have a YouTube and Instagram channel. I'm going to link those in the description box down below. You might know him as Mr. Rexu or Have a Knife Day. But he's a good dude. He's an Army veteran, and he does some really unique knives that you don't really see on any other review channel. So I would really recommend you go check him out. Michael, maybe you can answer this in the comments down below. I'm not sure if he's selling shirts or other merch like stickers, but he sent me some stuff. So if he is selling that, I would highly recommend you go check it out. And I don't mean to plug this as any kind of shill. Michael pays full price for his Kydex, so I'm not getting anything. You know, we're not doing any kind of shady deals as far as that goes. I'm just saying this from an honest consumer perspective. I have 3 shirts from the dude. He sent 2 of them like maybe a year and a half ago now, and this one's brand new. Give you a good look at this though. I really like this, nice style. The other 2 shirts I have from him, I've been wearing in my rotation of clothes that I wear every day, and they've actually held up better than all of the other t-shirts I own. So I don't know if it was just a difference in the material quality or what, but he does go for the good stuff. So I definitely recommend you check him out, not only to support his page, but also to have some good, comfortable, quality clothes if he's doing t-shirts or get some fun stickers or whatever he's got. So he's a good dude. You should definitely support him. Check him out in the links down in the description box. All right, so if you guys are familiar already with Mr. Rexu and his relationship with me on the sheath level, you can tell that he goes for a pretty similar style. No, I don't want to say similar, but similar elements anyway, in terms of the design concepts that you see him send my way. And a lot of them have big guards on them. A lot of them are Bowie style knives or something there about, something akin to a Bowie. And they present really interesting challenges for a sheath maker. I know a lot of sheath makers, a lot of guys that are particularly just getting started have been tuning into my channel and sending me questions and messages about, getting something out of my videos and whatnot. So I'm going to try to gear it a little bit toward them, as well as just kind of an informative video on how these kinds of sheaths are built. But basically, whenever you have a guard above and below the blade and handle, you need to make some serious critical decisions about the size of your sheath. Obviously, if you're going to go with a taco style sheath, the earliest place you could have the fold is right over the top of this guard. That is a huge margin to the side of the blade, so I don't advise that. I think that would be an irresponsible decision, not only because of material waste, but because it would be a nightmare to try to get the spine of the blade to stay parallel to the spine of the sheath. That would just be extremely difficult. I've really fudged with that a lot with knives like the Tops Operator 7. It's got a very small guard. It's only a little bit over a ½ inch protrusion off the top of the handle. And even with that, it's really difficult to keep a straight line. So I recommend a pancake style sheath, which involves slapping the knife down between 2 layers of Kydex. That means that even if the layers aren't totally parallel to the knife, you can still just trim off what you need to make it happen and make it have a nice acceptable profile to you. It's got a really nice click in, and with these S guards, that can also be, well, any kind of guard, that can really be a challenge. So let me walk you through really briefly how I get that kind of retention that kind of click, that kind of a smooth draw. Basically, you need to set up some kind of blocking behind your guard, both on top and on bottom. And when I say blocking, I mean, for instance, this is the blocking I built for the top side. It's just a piece of 3/4 inch plywood that I've sanded down to match the contour as well as the width. And what you can't totally see because I'm having a hard time holding this still, but basically at the top, it really does trace the outline. It blocks out the full width of the guard there. But down below, I allow the Kydex to form a little bit into the S-guard. The reason is because you wind up with some contour on your Kydex behind that guard that gives you a positive grip so that there's retention on this, as well as flaring it back out. It's really not flaring it back out, it's just sanding the edges inward to an acceptable point. But what that does is it causes the Kydex to take a little bit of an hourglass shape. So as it, trying to figure out how I'm going to do this, but as it passes the guard, it pinches in right behind it so that there's good retention. But then it swells back out so that there's plenty of clearance for drawing and resheathing. And it really just has to pass that little retention point. That gives you this iconic Kydex click that everybody loves to hear, and it gives you excellent retention. This sucker doesn't want to wobble around, it doesn't want to shake or rattle, and then when you want to use it, all you have to do, I like to push the side just a little bit inward toward the loop, toward the body side of the sheath, and it really does come off super smooth. So that's what I would recommend to any budding Kydex guys. If you've been at this for a long time, you probably already know what you're doing and how to create that kind of blocking, but I did the same thing for the top and the bottom. And the reason, one thing that's important, obviously the sheath does not extend all the way to the outside edges of the guard, so why does the blocking extend all the way down and all the way up? The reason is because it's continuity. I knew before forming the sheath that I was going to cut this off and have like an inch of the guard exposed on either side. But for continuity's sake, I wanted the Kydex to take the shape that it takes and have plenty of clearance so it looks like it was formed on a broader piece that was trimmed down, because it was. And to me, that gives, I don't know, another thing I would recommend is always do everything a little oversized, because you can take away material if you don't need it, but you can't put it back after you've removed it or if you didn't have it there in the first place. So as far as that goes, I didn't want to try building something only out to here, only to find out that I actually needed the sheath to go up slightly higher than where the blocking was, etc., etc. So for continuity's sake, I always do everything to the full range of the device that I'm trying to sheath. So that's what that looks like, and you can kind of see with that blocking on there why it took the direction it did. So yeah, for all you makers out there, blocking. It's the most important thing you can do when you're prepping or when you're building a sheath, is blocking your knife out well, because it's going to save you a ton of time. If you're doing one-offs, it can be a little bit of a time suck, but like just so you're aware, it took me about maybe 15 or 20 minutes to trace the knife out onto these two pieces of plywood, sand them down, get the right dimensions, and tape them in place. It was really not that much of a time commitment. We'll call it a half hour total on prepping this blade. And if I ever have to do another sheath for this blade or something really similar, this blocking I'm going to keep in a drawer, and maybe it'll come in handy again, so that saves me a lot of time in the future as well. But the point of the blocking is that when you first form the sheath, it takes all the contours you want it to have, it has none of the contours you don't want, and you don't have to do any, or at least not much, fine-tuning or tweaking to the retention after the fact. So there you go. The process, guys, if you're interested in building something like this, the process is block your knife, tape the blade, heat your material, press it, mark and drill all your holes while they're still stuck together, the two pieces of Kydex, and then you can separate them out. In this case, I separate them because it makes bonding the leather a little easier, because I can glue both pieces of the Kydex when they're laying face up, rather than having to do one full side, waiting, bonding, and then doing the other side. So I did both sides at the same time. Then I do my die work once it's all bonded, and then waterproof them, trim it all down, get a nice slicked edge, etc. So that's pretty much the process. Eyelets are last. Yeah, that's that. All right, as far as the sheath itself goes for the carry setup, I like to do, he likes these stiff leather loops. It's called a leather drop loop or a fixed loop, one of those two. And what this does is it gives you a nice stable carry so it doesn't swing around the way a dangler might, but it also puts the knife handle a little bit lower so that you don't have to do some weird chicken wing things with your elbow and shoulder to draw a larger blade up. So having it down just a little bit lower makes a pretty big difference in terms of the comfort of using it. The other thing this does is it does offer some flexibility. So if you sit down and you whack this on something, it has the potential to flex and bend a little bit rather than putting a lot of strain on. You see some guys do like an offset drop loop with a piece of Kydex coming off the knife, off the sheath rather, like at an L shape. I'm not going to say don't buy that. I'm not going to say it's not good. My only criticism or concern there is Kydex is flexible, but it also has the tendency to crease if it's bent too far or bent too many times. And that can create some serious issues. It can create some serious issues because if you do crease or weaken that Kydex, you more or less render that offset, that attachment, useless. This kind of setup, you're not going to have any creasing on this plate because it's got 4 points of contact in the corners. It's also ambidextrous, by the way. You can just take it off, shuffle it to the opposite side, and remount it. And all the creasing would happen on what is already a very flexible material with that leather. It's also 8 to 9 ounce buffalo hide, so it's really rugged stuff. It's not likely to crease or break on you in any reasonable period of time. It'll last probably decades, realistically. So there you go. Additionally, we also have an Exotac NanoStriker XL holder. I have it oriented like this, and Michael, how I would recommend doing it is pushing down to expose the textured side of this aluminum casing, and then you can just pull down from there while you have your belt resisting against that pull direction. So it makes sense to me. Going up, you might have some issues with going a different direction from the natural resistance of the gravity and the belt and all that. So, all right, guys. Well, that's all I've got for you. I would love your comments down below. What do you think of this? How do you think this came out? Anything I could have done better? What do you think of the blocking? What do you think of how I have the guard exposed on either side? It's always a little bit of a tough decision when you have a large guard of exactly what you're going to do with the profile of your sheath. But I think I made the right decision, still keeping the sheath as low profile as possible. I don't know. Let me know what you guys think. Obviously, I'm really happy with how this came out. I'm happy with the click and all that. So I'm pleased to ship this off. Go check out Michael's channel. Again, I'll put that in the description box down below. I'll also link anything I can find on the maker, Mark McCoun. I really like this knife, so I'll be checking him out a lot more. I recommend you guys do the same. All right, guys, that is all I've got for you. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'm sorry this is a little bit of a long video, but I appreciate you listening all the way through. If you did, drop a comment down below to let me know that you didn't fall asleep during my video. All right, guys, thanks so much. Like, share, comment, subscribe. Stick around for the next one. God bless.